डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Hello, welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University online video session. Today we are going to discuss on MA English course, the online course through which you are going to learn the paper number 1, that is known as Indian Writing in English, or Indian Writing in English known as the main paper 1, which is regarding MA English course. And we are going to discuss today the block number 3, which is known as essays. The basic form which we are going to study, that would be essay, but we are going to focus on the essays of Sri Aurobindoo, the spiritual guru, the educational guru, the guru that is known to be the predominant guru in the national standards and national popularity of India. So we are going to see that particular unit of Sri Aurobindoo's essay that is related with the Renaissance in India. So we have to discuss that right now. You can see over here MA English paper number 1, Indian Writing in English, block 3, pre-independence non-fiction. So we have to discuss non-fictional part, that would be considered as essays, discourses, the write-ups, long articles. All these go with the non-fictional writing. Non-fiction is exclusively apart from fiction, short stories and poetry. So we have to focus right now on block 3, Sri Aurobindoo's essay, Indian culture and external influence from the Renaissance in India and other essays. The book that is known as the Renaissance in India, which is very famous in the Indian Writing in English, in the non-fictional prose, and basically I wish to say that the book is the most important ingredient to learn the current national education policy 2020 with a view to Sri Aurobindoo's ideology in this particular book, the Renaissance in India. Sri Aurobindoo's essay, Indian culture and external influence from the Renaissance in India and other essays. He was born in Calcutta on 15th of August 1872. So you can see from the birth date that how his contribution would be in the upcoming India in 1947 or in 1950 or during the whole 19th century and the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 19th century, as well as the middle part of the 19th century and the end of the 18th century. So these are the things which we are going to discuss over here. Firstly, let us discuss about the birth date. He stood first in King's College, Cambridge in England. So we can say that basically he was the person who was known to be the super genius in the field of English language and literature. He was the master blaster of English language, but we accept him as the spiritual guru. You might know that there is the big ashram over there in Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindoo Ashram, and he is known to be the spiritual guru. So firstly, I suggest all learners, all the students who are watching this video, that you must read something about Sri Aurobindoo's spirituality, his spiritual discourses, what is his exact contribution in the field of spirituality, and then you should go through this particular essay of Indian culture and external influence from the Renaissance in India and other essays. He also passed the final examination of the Indian Civil Service. When he was the professor in Baroda College in MS University, Baroda, he joined Revolutionary Society. So from the beginning, predominantly he has been with the infrastructural works of independence. He is very much interested in the Indian nation, in the Indian revolutionary things which were happening for the independence of India. All these things were very much interesting in his case and in his personality even. Here is the photograph of Sri Aurobindo ji. After a short political career in which he became one of the leaders of the early movement for the freedom of India from British rule. As I told you, he is the leading personality in the freedom of India, but notwithstandingly, he was not a person who went like Shri Subhash Chandra Bose or Shri Shahid Bhagat Singh, that he was going and fighting, but he was a person who is known to be the intellectual fellow, the intellectual person who had been giving ideas, who had been arousing the people, the community of India, the youngsters of India, the young blood of India, the youth of India, the people of India, the educated people of India about the nationalism, about the freedom of India, about the ideology of India, about the role of nation and the role of people, and what is the actual thing which is necessary in freedom. So he is the main person, we can say, for the Indian people who had given the ideologies of colonization and the colonial effects, and what happens actually to the post-colonial society if they were not given proper treatment or proper understanding about their own national culture, the roots and the national, which is known to be the most important thing, the national fervor. So these things must be taught to the youngsters, to the people, to the society, to the community. That is what Sri Aurobindo wanted to tell the society. He was the person who could be considered as the freedom fighter, the person whose predominant role in the freedom movement, but his role, of course, I am telling you right now again that his role is the intellectual role, the role who gives the ideas, the person who gives the ideologies, the person who arouses the people with his thought, with his ideology, with his speeches, his deliberate articles, his write-ups, his quotations. These were the things he had done during the freedom movement. He turned to the development and practices of a new spiritual path which he called the integral yoga. Now look, he was the main person who had established this integral yoga, and that is why Sri Aurobindo Society or Auroville, that is very much famous word which is utilized for the society who follows the integral yoga, the people who follow the spiritual pathways of Sri Aurobindo ji. So this you must be keeping in your mind, and I advise you, dear learners, the listeners, that before going to this big topic, genuinely the biggest topic of the spirituality, the spiritual guru, you must go through the books, the write-up, the YouTube videos, the things which he had already given in his ideology, and afterwards you should go to learn what is his thought or what are his write-ups in his book, The Renaissance in India. Sri Aurobindo was Indian Hindu nationalist, philosopher, scholar, poet, evolutionary, yogi and guru. So you can see that this is the beautiful amalgamation of Hindu nationalist, philosopher, scholar, poet and even an evolutionary yogi and guru. In the 19th century, India had lots of superstitions, blind faith, ignorance, evil customs, and India was suffering because of the class system. People were narrow-minded and conservative even. The condition of women was worst. The evil customs like female infant, sati burn, widowhood, forced remarriages in the same family with the brother-in-law, or there were children who were also done or who were also forced to do the marriages, underage marriages. All these things were happening in India during the beginning part of the 19th century, and Sri Aurobindo was the person who had spoke about all this, written about all this. There are many documentations that you can find where Sri Aurobindo ji, he had given the national ideologies, his philosophical views on society, his philosophical views on parliament, even education, even speech and language, even all these things you can find in the Renaissance in India. These reforms brought culture and religion awareness, and as a result, this event may be considered as Indian Renaissance. Look, what is that reform and what is that cultural revolution that happened in India? That cultural revolution happened in India, that we can see that it happened with view to the events which are mentioned over here in the first in the before slide. Female infant, satiban, widowhood, forced remarriages, all these things, they were the superstitions, blind faith, and these were the effects which were found in the 19th century India. And Sri Aurobindo ji had tried to bring awareness in the community, in the society, with his ideologies, with his articles and writings. The essay was written in 1918. Look, the date says that it is merely the beginning of the 20th century. It is believed that Raja Ram Mohan Rai has started it, and in it he presented the old Indian spirit and how it should be converted into Renaissance. It also shows the Indian culture and its soul, the creativity in it, the strength due to the spirit. The outcome of it is shown in this essay. Now, what is all these things? I tell you. Look, the essay was basically written in 1918, the beginning of the 20th century. So basically it is the pre-independence period of time. We have got our freedom in 1947 on 15th of August, and in it he represented the old Indian spirit and how it should be converted into Renaissance. The old Indian spirit in the sense how Indians were suffering from different kinds of superstitions. There were very rigid lifestyle. The people were very much living very conservative life. Why? Because they were ignorant and they were poor people as well. So this happens. It also shows the Indian culture and its soul, the creativity in it. When Sri Aurobindo ji had written the essays, he had brought the actual India in his essay, and he had given the ideologies and things which could be done with the help of this essays also. The Renaissance in India is the outstanding work which you can say that it would help the Indians as well as the society as well as the Indian constitution to bring the change in the society. How it could happen, what could be done, what are the actual remedies which could be utilized in the society. Those things were mentioned and written in the book The Renaissance in India, the essays The Renaissance in India. So that is why they are very much important. The strength due to the spirit and the outcome of it is shown in this essay. What is the actual core part of the essay? What is the essence of the essay? That I am telling you. Basically, the core part of the essay, the essence part of the essay is spirituality. Sri Aurobindo was very clear, and he had tried to give us very aptly, very precisely, that spirituality is the only option, it is the only key through which the society can be changed, through which the young minds can be molded, through which you can influence the young people. So basically the ideology about the spirituality and the role of spirituality in the nation building as well as the role of the spirituality in education to young people, to the society, these were the essential parts in his essay, The Renaissance in India, in his essays of the Renaissance in India, that you have to keep in your mind. This is the core part which I had told you. Look, spirituality is the master key of the Indian mind. The sense of infinity is native of it. The soul is infinite. That is what is said over here, spirituality is the master key of the Indian mind. Mind is connected with spirituality and the sense of infinity. The human being is having infinite identity. When you talk about the soul, when you talk about the Atma, the soul is known as Atma in Sanskrit. You know that there is a particular shlok in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I want to tell you it right now. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka. And there are many more other lines in it. It means that, the shlok means that Atma, the soul, could not be even attacked by the weapons. The soul could not be burnt even by the fire, as well as if you try to put the soul into the water, into the sprinkling water, it would never go away. The soul is an infinite thing. Soul, known to be Atma, is an infinite thing. Atma could not be attacked even, it could not be burnt even, and neither it could be kept into the water to go away. So that is what is the ideology of him. He believed basically that spirituality is attached with soul. The soul could be groomed, or the soul could be molded with the key of the spirituality and the sense of infinity. That is what is human being or human mind or human soul is going to be stayed till the infinity. That's what is mentioned over here. The sense of infinity is native of it. The soul would remain infinite. But if the soul has that spiritual molding or that spiritual shielding, then only the soul would be in the infinite universe. That is what is his ideology. He believes that Indian civilization is the best civilization as it stands on spirituality, which is infinite. This is the general thing you must know, that India is known to be, our nation is known to be the Adhyatma Bharat. Bharat is standing on the roots of Adhyatma, spirituality. The soul, creativity and sheer intellect are the children of it. It has its own high spiritual aim. Mostly it is known that India is the spiritual country. There are many gurus, many spiritual pathways, many religions as well, many devs and devis. You also know that our animal cow that contains 33 crore devta, in the sense 33 crores of devis and devtas, 33 crores of gods and goddess, they are in the body of the animal cow. Cow is known to be the spiritual animal. We considered it, cow, as our mother. So Gau Mata, that is known as mother cow. With the help of effective mannerism, it forms and affects the rhythm of life, in his words. So here I wish to say that spirituality is mentioned in his essay The Renaissance in India. He believes that Indian civilization is very much spiritual. The soul, he talks about Atma and the infinity of the soul, and with the help of these two ideologies, he means to say that our nation, our country, our India is the nation of spirituality. And finally here he says that with the help of effective mannerism, it forms and affects the rhythm of life. So rhythm of life, the key behind the happiness of the life, or the rhythm of life, or the education of the life, success of life, the peacefulness of the life, is spirituality, he means to say. A spiritual aspiration was the governing force of this culture. Look, if you want to build the culture of India, if you want to build the nation of the India, if you want to create the young, strong youth of the nation is in the hands of the strong youth, because youth is the future of the nation. And when you want to build the strong youth, when you want to mold the strong youth, when you want to groom the or educate the strong youth, you need to convert them, or you need to enforce them, you need to immune the young youth, the people, the society with the spiritual forces. Spiritual aspiration is the governing force of the culture. Culture is the merely reflection of the youth. Culture is the reflection of the society. That's why spiritual aspiration is integral part of the culture. I think you are clear about the spirituality and the culture and the impressions of spirituality on culture and why all these things are necessary. Spirituality, impression of spirituality on the culture, and both these things are necessary because they are the integral part of the youth, and youth is the future of nation. So basically it goes like that: A is connected with B, B is connected with C, and A, B and C contains the D block. So this is basically he means to say over here. You have to remember that spirituality is important thing. It is the integral yoga which he has given, and that is merely the governing force, the education, the academic purpose, the things to be given to the youth. All these things are necessary in the spiritual aspiration because they create the culture, because culture is the reflection of the youth. So these are the things which are told by him in his essay on the Renaissance in India. Sri Aurobindo believes that the spirituality is the highest aspect of life, as it tries to be ruling the passion of a single man. You are not going to convert the person, or you don't want to force the person. You cannot change the young blood. You cannot enforce them. You cannot push them. We can't force the young youth, or we cannot do that thing, but only thing is the spiritual pathway through which we can change the mind of the person or the youth even. And he also turns the core of the man towards it. Basically, Indian human being, the Hindu, is always connected with his spiritual religious perspective, and through which we can govern the Hindu, the Indian. For him, Renaissance is the new birth of India, and it is very important for her. Here he personified India as Mother India. Look, the concept of Mahabharati, the concept of India as the nation, Bharat, which is known to be the son of Bharat Mata. So the concept of Bharat Mata, Mahabharati, Mother India, this concept, this basic concept is given by Sri Aurobindo. He wants to put her on the world in such a way that it evokes the new creativity in the mentality. What is that? He wants to put her in the sense Mahabharati on the world in such a way that it evokes the new creativity in the mentality. He wanted to arouse the people, he wanted to arouse the youth, the people, the society, that we are the children, we are the community of Mahabharati, mother nation, our mother nation that is known to be the Bharat Mata. Under the name of Bharat Mata, he wanted to highlight his ideology. She. Now look over here in this write up, you can see that all those words which are written about she, her, again her, these are highlighted with red color. Why? It is very much significant. Here I wish to say that the ideology of Mahabharati is given by Sri Aurobindo. She should relearn the age-old ideas and light up the spirit within and emboss herself among other nations' eye, so that it helps her to govern her future. She, in the sense Mahabharati, could create her own identity with her fellow beings, with her people who live on this beautiful country, India. The important is what India makes her own life must precede the wider question what her new life may be mean to human race. So what is the actual role of Mahabharati, mother nation, our nation, in the overall infrastructure of the world, in the overall map of the world, and what is our identity as an Indian human being? That is indicated by Sri Aurobindo in his essays of the Renaissance in India. The guiding principle of Sri Aurobindoo's educational philosophy was the awakening of the individual as a spiritual being. Now, how the common individual human being could be known as or could be influenced with the ideologies of national person or with the ideologies of thoughts of national integration. For that purpose, to influence those people, here this essay, The Renaissance in India, works. It is self mastery by the child through self discovery, self realization, self fulfillment, and self perfection. All these ABCD are necessary. Why? To bring the spiritual being alert, to arouse the spiritual being of the individual. Look, these are the photographs of Mahabharati, mother nation, our country, India, that is known to be the Matrubhumi. We can name it as Mahabharati also, Bharat Mata. There is a concept of Bharat Mata having the flag in our national flag in Mother Nation's, Mother India's hand, that you can see, and it is very much important. Why? All these three pictures give the same ideology about Mahabharati. That is the actual concept given by Sri Aurobindoo ji, and that is why you have to remind it and you can write it in your answers even. Sri Aurobindoo made a five-fold classification of human nature, as for example, the physical human nature, the mental nature, the psychic nature, and the spiritual nature of human being. Corresponding to these five nature, physical, mental, psychic, spiritual, human nature, he had given five aspects of education. Look, physical education, vital education, that is related with mental nature, then psychic education, that is again related with psychic nature, and spiritual education, basically, of course, obviously it is related with spiritual nature, spiritual human nature. So all these things were very elaborately, in very detail he had written in his The Renaissance in India and its cultural external influence with his other essays. And that is the, actually I believe that is the essential part in NEP 2020 also. If anyone of you is free to read National Education Policy 2020, which is recently given by the government of India, that you can find, there you can find many ideologies and many different perspectives about holistic education, education in mother language, the influence of regional languages, influence of regional culture, the cultural integrity, the impression and influences of our classics and epics, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the classical influences, or the teachings of yogic science, teachings of Ayurveda, teachings of our ancient theories. All these things are already given by Sri Aurobindoo ji very beautifully in his essays. If they were interpreted or if they were followed by the great educational persons, they are already given before NEP 2020 in his essays. So these are very similar things which you can find in NEP 2020 as well as Sri Aurobindoo ji's writings also. Look, Indian culture and external influence from the Renaissance in India and other essays. This is basically the essay which is given by him, that which we are going to learn deeply in our second part. There are three main philosophical contributions observed from classical works by Sri Aurobindoo. Now this second part comes over here right now. It starts, so you need to focus on the basic book. First is the evolution concept, which is central ideology to Aurobindoo's philosophy. Second is integral yoga, and third is integral education. These are the three core main part of his philosophy. You have to memorize it clearly, that evolution concept of philosophy, integral yoga is an integral part in his writing, and integral education. These are the three things. In this block we are focusing only on the principles of integral education and how these principles have been recognized in National Education Policy 2020, but of course with a view to his essay on Indian culture and external influence from the Renaissance in India and other essays, because our core part is this particular essay, so we have to focus on that only, and the other 2 points would be discussed freely. You can read it in your further readings also, in your referential reading, in other recommended readings. There you can study it and read it at your convenience. Look, this is the important part of this functioning. Principle at integral education features. Look, nothing can be taught. This is the main idea about Sri Aurobindoo ji. Nothing can be taught, in the sense he means to say that the teacher should not be a conventional stereotype teacher who stands in the class and teaches the students in a regular conventional way, forces the students, tells the young children, pupil, to write down and monotonously all these things that happen in conventional teaching. In fact, he wanted to focus that teacher is not an instructor or taskmaster, he is a helper and a guide, and the role of the teacher is to suggest and not to impose. So this is basically, he means to say that the role of the teacher is to arouse the students to think differently, or to think on the topics which were given by the teacher, to suggest and to impose. He does not, and not to impose. He does not actually train the pupil's mind. He only shows him how to unify the instruments of knowledge and help him encourage. So here he means to say that do not try to put the students with the bulks of knowledge, but try to think them and involve them in the study and try to make them find the things, how they can find the things, or how they can create the unification of the study, how they can unite the things which are dispersed in front of them. So if they are able to develop at the second level, that is important, rather than putting them in front of the boosting them with the knowledge. That is basically not at all the role of the teacher. That's what he said. His ideology, I tell you that you can go and refer to the thinkings and ideologies of Sri Gurudev Tagore also, or you can study Sri J. Krishnamurti also. His ideology are quite similar to Sri Aurobindoo ji. Even you can go and study the ideologies and the ideas of education regarding Sri Swami Vivekananda ji also. There also you can find the same kinds of thoughts. He shows him how to acquire knowledge for himself. He shows him, in the sense, the teacher's role is to show the students to acquire knowledge for themselves, how they can acquire the knowledge for themselves, how they can find the knowledge, or what is the most interesting thing for them that they should find out. These are the necessities of the teacher. The mind has to be consulted in its own growth. The idea of hammering the child into the shape designed by the parent or the teacher is a barbarous and ignorant superstition. Look, you can't mold the child as if you are making a sculpture. Hammering is not at all allowed. Frequently telling the students, go and read now, this is the examination, go and read now. Generally, this is the habit of the mothers. I tell you, even I am a mother and I have been doing certain things, so I am telling that this is merely not allowed, as Sri Aurobindoo ji says. It is he himself who must be induced to expand in accordance with his own nature. It is a selfish tyranny over a human soul and a wound to the nation which loses the benefit of the best that a man could have given it, and is forced to accept instead something imperfect and artificial, second rate, obligatory and common. So he means to say that you can't force the children, or the mind has to be consulted in its own growth. The growth is necessary. This is merely the idea, like Shri Rabindranath Tagore was telling about the art should be developed for the art's sake. If the children are interested in music and they want to learn mathematics with the help of music, they should be given it they should be provided the musical classroom, and they can go in the woods and learn everything, even if they find it more perfect, and if they find it more comfortable, then they can go in the woods. The students can be taken in the jungle, or in the forest, or in the garden, in the beautiful gardens, and there also they can be taught. That is the idea given over here also. Everyone has in him something divine, look, something his own, a chance of perfection and strength in however small a sphere which God offers him to take or refuse. These are very important concepts which are actually given by Shri Aurobindoo ji in his write-up of the Renaissance in India. So you must mention it in your answers as well. The task is to find it, develop it and use it. The chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul. The soul is written in pink fonts, pink color, and perfect for a noble use. These are the two important things which is necessary, which is the main objective of education. This is the main perspective of education to the society. Educate the child, perfect for a noble use and the growing soul. Whatever education should be given, or whatever education could be provided, it should be for the growing soul only. It must be for the perfection, for a noble use. To work from the near to the far, from that which is to that which shall be, and the basis of a man's nature is almost always in addition to his soul's past, his heredity, his surroundings, his nationality, his country, and the soil from which he draws sustenance. So here Shri Aurobindoo ji means to say that the soul has the impressions, the soul has the influences of the surrounding, the nationality, the culture, the parents, the family, the society, the way in which he grows up, the cultural heritage he contains. That is actually the reflection of the ordinary regular human being, and that becomes actually the integral part of the nationalism. Even this could be mentioned in the national integration. Even you can mention these things in national integration. Even we must not take up the nature by the roots from the earth in which it must grow, and surround the mind with images and ideas. So here he means to say that if anything has to be brought in from outside, it must be offered, not forced on the mind. A free and natural growth is the condition of genuine development. So here again he means to say that natural growth is necessary for the healthy mind, for the spiritual mind, and for the growth of the soul. We have learned these two words in the previous slide. I think you must remember: perfect for a noble cause and the growing soul. These are the two things which can be developed in youth, in students, in learners, in young blood, with the help of this free education, free with nature, without any forced or forceful implementation of ideology. They mold him not the less powerfully, because insensibly, and from that then we must begin. Look, where we have to begin in the science, where we have to initiate our education, where we have to start our teaching, not from the powerful, forceful teaching, but mold him not the less powerfully. They, in the sense, the culture, the surrounding, the nationalism, the basic, our basic nature, our basic spiritual aspiration, our cultural impressions, all these are necessary, and they are sensitively, insensibly means, because insensibly means not withstandingly forcing them, but they are by default, they are having this natural tendency very very freely or very easily. The human being will be molded or will be included, integrated in this integral yoga, integral education, and the important part is spiritual education. So these are the three things which are mentioned over here. We must not take up the nature, and we have to see how the Renaissance and the culture of the Renaissance in India, the influence of the external influence of the culture that happens to the youth in this essay of Renaissance in India and other essays of Sri Aurobindo ji. So we have already discussed the integral part of the essay also. What is the role of the essay in national integration, as well as Sri Aurobindo ji's own thoughts were also discussed in this session. So the whole session is about his essay and the interpretation of his essays. So goodbye all. Wish you very good luck and have a great day. Namaskar.
स्वाध्यायः परमः